Hello everyone, thank you for joining me again for another video on Gran Turismo 7. This time, I've brought you highlights from Daily Race C, which was Group 3 cars at the Red Bull Ring. But before we get into the meat of it, a quick update on the Nations Cup progress, for those of you who may be interested. As of the moment, I've still only participated in one race, which was round 1 of the Nations Cup. If you haven't seen that yet, I encourage you to go watch it. I feel it did a great job around Spa, and your additional support is much appreciated. If you're interested, I'll tag it at the end of this video. I am expecting to be taken to the track for round 4, which is going to be 10 laps in the Group 4 cars at Lago Maggiore. It's a really fun track, a very interesting track, and it is the full course as opposed to one of the abbreviated variants. So I certainly hope that I'll have something exciting to bring you from there after everything is said and done. It doesn't look like there's going to be really any strategy to consider. Both fuel consumption and the tire wear are going to be set to 2x, and the only tire available is the hards. So it's just looking like it's just going to be a straight sprint to the finish. 10 laps, done, no thinking about it. Now that is going to be in stark contrast to what we have here to the strategy required for the sprint around Austria's Red Bull Ring, which I did several times over the course of the previous week. 13 laps, 2x fuel, 10x tire wear, and not only were soft and medium tire compounds available, but both had to be used at some point during the race, or you'd incur a 1-minute penalty when crossing the finish line. Even with a strong first place finish, you'd be forced to watch your adjusted finishing time drag you down the final race order. But anyways, let's get into how I did at the Red Bull Ring. Man, I really just seemed to jive with this track. I don't recall having had anything less than a top 5 finish here all week, and my ability to easily settle into a groove around this course helped me so much in that regard. So let's take a look at the first race. Qualifying time at this point in the week places me in 3rd for this first stint, and there's going to be some chaos on the track through this first lap, but welcome to Gran Turismo. In regards to Chaos's greatest potential, this will be fairly mild. I'll even cause just a bit of it myself, mistakenly. Though I would have you keep an eye on Leo 357 during this feature, just 2 positions behind. This first session and the next couple that followed, we shared a lobby and there wasn't a single post-race chat where someone didn't have something to say about him, and you'll definitely see why. Turn 1 is a little shaky. P1 and P2 slowed down a lot more than I anticipated they would, and I deliver a small love tap to the back end of GT Fox, but no harm, no foul, and this actually gave him quite the boost into the straight, leaving me behind. And from here we get our first visit from Leo. He's playing what we quickly identified as his favorite game, Your Car is My Braking Zone. He sends Carlos into the back of me and then follows up by going out of his way to make sure I stay wide out of the turn. After getting replanted on the track, I follow him down the straight, but my speed is so compromised I'm overtaken into the turn by Black Marker. I attempt to undercut him, but GT Fox, having lost a battle for P1, is re-entering the track. Black Marker, I believe, hesitates on the gas, and I make a small but impactful connection with him, making the situation all the worse. Not feeling particularly at fault, I do continue on. Jumping forward 1 lap, starting sector 3, I've managed to gain on P2, but we're going to start seeing a few moments of some extremely poor connection quality from Leo. What I think is a big mistake out of him giving me the position is just some absolute bizarre behavior as the server attempts to correct his position. He's lurched forward, and it appears that I've not gained any of the time I thought I had. Here we see more antagonistic behavior from Leo. It'd be easy to chalk this up as a server connection creating issues as he passes, but you can actually see him come back for a second swipe to make sure he's finished the job. I drive wide, narrowly avoiding TRJ, and prepare to settle in as Leo still owes me a position. Leaving the start of lap 3 behind, we jump to the end of lap 4. The delta to P1 remaining fairly static, and I'll choose to dive into the pit to throw on my soft shoes and attempt an undercut. You'll notice that upon pit lane entry, my driver's side tires dip past the line, and I'm unfortunately assessed a 3-second penalty as a result. Any potential time gained from the undercut is now unfortunately forfeit. We'll catch back up with Leo at the start of lap 8. He'll be coming out of the pits, having just swapped over to his medium tires. Considering we were able to keep pace with him on mediums versus his sauce at the first half of this race, I'm more than confident at this point that I'll be able to reel him in. And I do. Now sitting firmly in his slipstream on the back end of lap 9, it initially feels like I'm going to get a strong enough run on him into turn 9, but ultimately I decide against it. I do, however, stay to the right and attempt to bait him into a mistake, hoping he'll pay more attention to me than his line. adjustment doesn't quite play out, so I slot back in behind him, ready to make sure I can capitalize on his slipstream in the coming straights. Now I have the run I've been hoping for. Using his slipstream to boost myself up, I managed to get my nose squarely on the inside of the racing line. Braking just a split second after them, I secure my car completely into the inside of the line and thus the turn. I leave him ample room through this turn for him to take the outside line, but Leo chooses to turn in early, bounces off my car out of the track boundaries and secures himself a penalty. As you can see here, however, Leo does not like this result and smashes me wide. Already expecting it, I keep my cool into the grass, get the car back onto the course, and prepare to come back at him again. Retribution actually comes sooner and harder than I was expecting. In his haste to try and keep the gap from falling with 3 laps still to go, he loses it all on the exit to turn 1. Throw him a smile, wave and a nod as I pass by, and drive on to finish in first place. My first instinct was to call him out in post-chat, but I mean, we've all been there, we know it doesn't change anything. So instead, I made sure to apologize for my own error in lap 1, and continued on with my next race. Alright, for race 2, I'm going to show you the complete inverse of the previous stint. I'll end up in a multi-lap duel with Didier, whom you see there in position 4, and it was a very fun one. Both of us went out of our way to make sure we showed each other proper respect through the corners, just being mindful of each other, both of us wanting to beat out the other and do it without any question over who was the clear victor. Same qualifying time as before, but this time starting off in P7. Starting towards the middle of the pack can definitely make for a more interesting race. There's so many more passing opportunities for both you and your opponents, but it also can lead to increased chaos. Fortunately, this race is much more tame by comparison, and as I said, a complete inverse from the previous, and ultimately I'll finish in a satisfying position. Here we go up into turn 1. We're going to get right on the tail of P6, but we all managed to get through cleanly. From what I experienced though, it's not turn 1 that's the problem. It's the heavy braking point into Remus, which is turn 3. Pushing down the hill and then up the straight. I'm going to attempt to move on the outside, but I'm not able to make it stick. I feel like I could have got on the brakes a little later, carried a little bit more speed through the corner, and it may have worked. But ultimately it doesn't. You'll see we're going to lose 1 to the corner there and gain a position. Jumping through the rest of the lap and up into the beginning of lap 2. Reaper's behind us in P7 is going to have the slip on us towards turn 1. He's going to be in position for the inside line of the turn. I'm prepared to have to go wider than normal here, but he massively misses the start of the brake zone and dives into the side of P6. It's strange how I said it's not usually turn 1 you have to worry about. This is going to light an obvious fire in Scretus and will be driving right alongside these two as he attempts to get his revenge. He attempts to plow Reaper at the braking zone, but this actually works in Reaper's favor, giving him a big boost through the corner on into the straight. You can see that myself and Screeters are almost alongside each other, but my acceleration will allow me to get ahead and into the slip for the little time that it's worth and ultimately dodge the bullet he creates of himself in a final attempt at revenge. Reapers runs himself wide, possibly attempting to carry more speed through that corner to avoid the obvious takedown attempt, but he's going to lose traction and we're going to be handed 2 positions. From here, we're going to skip around just a bit as the race mostly settles down. I'll pick up a position here off Mark. He just slows down for no apparent reason. Lets us kind of slide on by. And just a couple turns ahead, Davis in P2 is going to bail into the gravel, handing us another position. Skipping ahead a handful of laps, I finally managed to catch up with Diddy and we're both diving into the pits. We're in temporary first and second place positions as the race lead had pit just a couple laps earlier. And as we come out of the pits, we'll find ourselves down a few more positions than I expected. Thinking that these drivers behind us were most likely going to pit with us, but they'll have to pit soon and they'll be handing these back to us shortly. Jumping forward another few laps, this is when the race between myself and Diddy actually starts getting interesting. He had a great pace and was very consistent, so it's no wonder that it took this long into the race just to get an attempt at him. You'll see that I have a strong run on him down the hill towards turn 2, and he's going to go full defensive on the right for turn 3. Taking another stab at the same maneuver I attempted in lap 1, I'm going to find success, and then I'm still right there with him. Down the hill again, charging towards turn 4. We are neck and neck, but this straight is much shorter and already we're back into the braking zone for this much faster corner. I make sure not to turn in too sharply on my opponent, power out of the corner, but Diddy has a much faster exit, and I slot back in behind looking for my next attempt. Jumping forward once again to the start of the next lap, I find myself in a familiar situation, but this time my run down to turn 2 is much stronger, and I feel I may be able to fully make this move this time. Once again, Diddy goes full defensive on the right side, but is forced to do so much earlier. I'm already alongside him and gaining a small lead up the hill towards turn 3. Around the corner, carrying as much speed as I feel comfortable, and it appears Diddy doesn't quite get the exit he's looking for, and I'm able to gain the position. As I power down the hill, I see my opponent disappear out of the radar, and I know that I've secured the position for now. Alright, so flash forward to the end of the race. I managed to fight him off ultimately and come in for a second place finish, and I'm quick to hop into the post-race chat and thank him for the race. This really is how it's supposed to be done, and it's super thrilling when you do get to experience it. Thank you again, Diddy, for the duel. For the last feature, the last race I did for the week, and the race that graduated me out of DRB and up into DRA. Honestly, there's not much to say on this one, so we're going to run it down fairly quickly. First off, I took some time on the last day to improve my qualifying, getting it down to half second to 1:28.6, and that allowed me to qualify first for this race. Alright, so here we go. And we're off the line, and it's over. And maybe that comes across a little cheeky, but when it was done, it was done. There was nothing at all interesting about this race. It was just a straight beeline to the finish. Even when I came out of the pit, swapping over to the softs, there was just nothing but open air in front of me, and I just continued on. And as you can see, just an absolutely dominating victory. It was a good race, and I graduated to DRA. I'm super excited, and this is going to help me get a few extra points in my lobbies in the nations races, which ones I am able to participate in. And I'm going to close it out here and say thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you.